All right. What up? What up? What up? What up? This is your boy Raz, man, with the Dynasty Overload podcast coming to you once again. It's me and my boy D. Sheila. How you doing, brother?
Man, I'm good, ready to get this party jumping.
Let's
Um,
go.
Excited for the show today, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, guys, we got something special for you today. We got our late round targets. We're talking startup drafts. We're talking our late round targets. Some of these guys that you can get to do some major damage in those startups. So when you get in those startups, listen, some of you guys are getting a little lost in the sauce on where to go, who to pick. After you got through the names that you're kind of like, all right, who can I grab? It's just a bunch of guys, and I got to fill this roster up with talent, especially if you made the mistake of trading with Mr. D. Sheilor here, and he robbed you of all your first round, all your top picks, and everything like that. And now you got to come up with a team, and you're like, all right, where do I go? What do I do? Because some of you guys are gonna draft quarterback late and miss the boat on that. Some of you guys are gonna, it's gonna be sometimes it's gonna be like a little position that you kind of avoided, and now you need to figure out, okay, where am I going? What am I doing? And who's some great picks or some great ideas, the great places that we can go. So me and Mr. Sheilor are finna get you there. As my boy Manny would say, we do the research, so you don't have to. All
There
right.
you go.
Okay, Mr. Sheilor, let's start off with the number one position, the QBs. If you're going late, where you going at that position, brother?
So let's kind of walk through, right? So a lot of our league format wise is going to be super flex, right? So if you're in a super flex league, this is what I'm looking at, right? I'm looking at grabbing guys not to be starters, but to be future assets that I want to move. Okay. So in a super flex league, from me, I'm always going to try to at least secure me two starting quarterbacks up front. But then I want to have two or three guys that I believe will have the potential to go ahead and be somebody that when some injury happens or there's a quarterback shakeup or something like that goes down, that I can grab and then be able to flip for that 24 second round pick, that 24 first round pick, depending on how everything is. Because a lot of people become very desperate when they didn't actually have a quarterback plan. So here are a couple of my targets. I'm going to start with the first one. Baker Mayfield is time to buy Baker. Okay. Baker Mayfield is a former number one overall pick. And he's literally in a situation where he is walking into now in Tampa Bay, a situation where the only competition for him is someone who's never played before. So he has elite talent. There is elite weapons over there at the receiver position in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. There is a pass for catching back there, Rashard White. There is elite talent on the offensive line. So he literally has a lot of different pieces that are set up. And the biggest thing about Baker Mayfield is when you look at his numbers, he hasn't been horrible numbers wise. The NFC is, in fact, the weaker conference from actually coming from the AFC. When you look at the quarterback profiles and things of that nature, Baker Mayfield, who I've been able to grab in rounds 12 and later, has the potential to actually be a consistent quarterback two starter for you. That means he's putting up quarterback 15 to 20 range as far as actual numbers. If he starts the full season, I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen, especially with the upgrade and weapons that he's going to have. I think he's learning. I think he's maturing. I think he's at a very unique place in his life where he's ready to actually really commit on a different level. So give me all of Baker Mayfield I can get round 12 and beyond. Razman, definitely wants your thoughts, and then you can give me one of your quarterbacks that you want to grab as well.
All right. I'm glad you come to me. And listen, I completely agree and concur with you about Baker Mayfield. I am a person who does not like Baker Mayfield, have never been a fan of his. It has nothing to do with him personally. It's just that when I see him on the field, I've always kind of felt like it was unsustainable. I did think that his accuracy was a thing of, I thought his accuracy was really great, but it just seemed off to me. And it never seemed as though I never thought superstar potential with him. And I think he kind of got a bit of a raw deal at times in Cleveland. But then when he went to the Rams, you could probably say that he didn't have a fair shake there because he wasn't there that long or whatnot. But the problem for me is Carolina because I do feel like he had all the opportunity in Carolina, and you can probably say, well, the team wasn't that good, and maybe they weren't, but he really crapped the bed in Carolina, and for me that was a big red flag. But I do like the fact that in Tampa, this guy has Evans, Godwin. He has Ratchat that he'll be able to, dink the ball to. Yeah, he has a nice tight end out there. I think that he has great weapons out there. So if there's a place that he could succeed, I definitely think that Tampa is a place that he could succeed. But that's going to lead me into my first late round pick, and that's going to be Trask. So
Mhm.
give me Kyle Trask, and I'm not taking him as early as you would take a Baker Mayfield. I'm looking to grab Trask maybe 15, 16, if you can get him there. And that's because, listen, although Baker's there and he should take the job, for one, it's not set in stone that Baker's gonna get the job because remember Trask has been in the system for a while now. So that's one. And the second thing is if Baker starts to falter during the season, I definitely believe that Trask is going to be the guy that they turn to, and then we'll really get to see him unleash and kind of see what he has. So I don't think that Trask is a bad pick because there's good potential there. I also agree with Baker. If you can grab him in the 12th, saying these guys are kind of, there's a reason you can get them so late. And listen, but one guy is going to be starting. One of these guys is going to be playing. They got to play somebody that's going to be between those two guys, and you get them very, very late. And in a super flex league where quarterbacks are hard to come by, I think that's great, great, excellent value. So just something to think about. Mr. Shiloh, I'm going to give it back to you, brother.
So I like the Kyle Trask piece. I've literally stashed him on a number of leagues. So he's been in taxi squad, sitting there chilling for me. So definitely believe he does have that upside. So I like that pick. The one thing I would say is because there is a change in the offensive coordinator, I think that hurts him. I think if you saw that continuity and Byron Leftwich was still there, then I think that definitely opens up another opportunity. But the other thing is Baker Mayfield didn't get a whole bunch of a contract. He did not sign a big contract, so it seems like it's going to be open competition. So grabbing that Kyle Trask around 16, I would love to pair those two together. You pair those two together, you know you're going to have the Tampa Bay quarterback, and that's a phenomenal situation to go ahead and be able to have that going. But my next quarterback that I'll be looking at grabbing is Taylor Heineke. Give me Taylor Heineke. You can find him around 16 or 20. And that is just insane value. This guy was a starting quarterback for the Commanders last season, and the year before then. He definitely has some skills. He definitely has some camaraderie that he actually creates with the team. He was buying different, was it the Jays to the for the offense once they actually got a win. So different things that he was already doing, and he walks into a situation in Atlanta where there are weapons. The cupboard isn't bare, and Desmond Ritter has not fully established himself as being the guy. If Desmond Ritter falters, you can see Taylor Heineke take over that team and lead them on a run because he's lightning in a bottle. I liken him to being a Ryan Fitzpatrick type quarterback that is streaky, that can actually come in and really make an impact. I would love to actually grab him anywhere I can, slide him right on that bench, and then go ahead and actually see what happens because I think he's going to start some games for Atlanta this year.
Hey, brother, I think that's excellent, excellent advice. Listen, they brought Heineke in for a reason. And that reason is because they weren't sold completely on Desmond Ritter. So I'm in lockstep with you. When I saw that signing, it rose my eyebrows up and I was like, uh-oh. And while I don't think Ritter's job is in trouble, I do think that Ritter's going to get a fair shake, but I also think that Heineke isn't there just to be, the ball boy. You know, I think he's there just in case they're wrong on Ritter. And listen, Heineke's going to come in. He's going to run around. He's going to throw the ball around. He's going to make a lot of noise. You might not win games. He usually doesn't win games, but he's very entertaining, and he puts up numbers. So yeah, I think that's a great pick, excellent pick there. So my second one is going to be Gardner Minshew. And the reason I'm going Garner is because if the Colts are gonna go, listen, the Colts were interested in Lamar, so they may be actually interested in Anthony Robinson. Um, so another thing, and then the other guy they said they're connected to was Will Levis. I think that's a good connection for them, but at the same time, they might deem Will Levis not ready to start either. And because you have Pittman and the receiver they drafted last year.
Alec Pierce.
Yeah, Alec Pierce. I wasn't gonna say his name because I think he's gonna come up later.
That's my guy. We'll talk about
but
him.
but Pierce, and then they have a couple of tight ends that I thought were pretty good. Then they have JT, and JT can catch the ball out the backfield too because he and that offensive line isn't as good as it once was, but it's a pretty good offensive line. So because of that, I like Gardner Minshew. I think the Gardner Minshew might get some real burn in Indianapolis, and I hate the Colts. So, but I still think that Gardner Minshew is a great pick. I think people aren't thinking about him, especially in your startup drafts. People aren't concerned about him at all. And this is a guy that you can get in that 16 to 20 range, and it's amazing to me. So yeah, give me all the Gardner Minshew I can grab.
I think that's a great pick. Definitely somebody that should be at a start, especially if they grab a Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. If you grab one of those guys, you're not looking for them to play immediately. You want them to learn the system. So Gardner Minshew comes in and can really be lightning in the bottle. So definitely love that pick. My next guy that I would actually be looking into grabbing is none other than Mr. Mike White. Mike White is actually going to be the backup quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. If y'all have listened to me in any way, shape, form, I am the president of the Sell Tua fan club. Okay? Now, listen, it's not about Tua personally. I love the young man. I think he has a great future for himself. But I am so concerned with the fact that he has gone through all of those concussions, had all of that different injury history. He's been hurt in college, he's been hurt in the pros. He is one big hit away from literally having, conversations about possibly having to end his career. So in that particular instance, I think Mike White is definitely somebody that you want to have. He can slide in as a backup. And I'll throw y'all a bonus in here. If it all goes bad in Miami with all the weapons they have, you might get Tom Brady to go ahead and come out of that booth and go ahead on and slide in there and do some Tom Terrific magic um, on that particular team with that particular roster, given the scenario. So give me Mike White for sure. But a lot of times you've seen people drop Tom Brady. I wouldn't mind just snatching up Tom Brady and just sliding him in that last spot and just seeing if an injury happens because I can see him going out there with all those weapons in Miami because they definitely are in a win now component. Grabbing a Jalen Ramsey, the defense is ready for prime time. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. I don't know how that's going to work, but give me Mike White. But also, super bonus, y'all are welcome in advance. Grab Tom Brady. He might come out the booth with the cape on and be in a Miami Dolphin uniform if Tua goes down. Passing back to you, Raz, man.
Hey, listen, I agree with that. I like Mike White. I thought that he was going to get a real shot for the Jets, but the Jets decided they wanted a veteran quarterback. They weren't going to play any games anymore. So I agree with that. But Mike White is there to just in case Tua falters. So when they go out and when these teams go out and get a backup and actually pay him real money, and somebody high profile, I would point to Denver. And while I'm high on Russell Wilson, listen, the coaches up there are talking about Stiddy, Jared Stidham, as being
Mm-hmm.
a possible number one QB and everything like that. To me, that's the backup plan. So if Russell doesn't bounce back this year, they've already got their backup plan. They already got their franchise quarterback right behind them, and that's what that's screaming to me. And that's also what the Mike White thing says to me. They're putting guys in place where they feel like, hey, this guy can do something with this team because these guys are serious about wins. And these QBs that's in front of them, and I know Russell's contract is what it is, but listen, at some point they're going to prioritize winning. And the old regime is out. The guys that gave him that contract is out already in Denver. So hey, they're going to prioritize winning. So that's something to think about. My third is actually going to be a guy that shouldn't be on the board late, and that's going to be Ryan Tannehill because a lot of people are forgetting about Ryan Tannehill, and I know people are looking at the Tennessee situation and saying, "I don't know what they're going to do there." You're starting to hear a little draft talk about the Titans moving up to taking somebody. I don't believe it. Not only do I not believe it, I would say that's completely false because when they hired their new GM, the Carthon guy, he basically was hired because he said that he was the guy that was hired because he was the guy that said that he didn't believe that Tennessee needed to do a full rebuild. He said he thought that they could do a soft rebuild and compete the following year. So if that's the case, then you can't go out and be getting another quarterback because that means that this man kind of went back or fell back on what he said when he initially got the job. And if you listen to the coach and you listen to Mr. Carthon, the whole time they have said that Ryan Tannehill is their starting quarterback. Now that could be coaches speak. I could be wrong about that, but I don't believe that Ryan Tannehill should be going after Baker Mayfield. I think that's crazy. And at times I've seen him do that. But to me, hey man, take you a shot at Ryan Tannehill. You can get him. He's basically going as the very last starting quarterback, coming off the field because people are just forgetting about him. And listen, and that's I guess because maybe he got hurt last year, but that's good money to me. If you go back and look at Ryan's 2 years ago and his last couple of years, just look at the points. And so probably not this past year. He was injured the whole year. He didn't have such a great year the year before. Year before that, had a lot of good points. But listen, he should be more or less what he was not this past year, but the year before that, which wasn't great. But hey, still starting QB level in Superflexes leagues. So that's my last QB. Let's move right on over to running backs. Let's do running backs. Who's your first late round running back, brother?
So give me this year's Jamal Williams and Damian Harris. Damian Harris is a legit back. He was in that New England system. He did get hurt last year, but when you see him out there, he runs the way you want to see somebody run. He hits the holes hard. He is now in Buffalo, and being in Buffalo, what we know is that there's a lot of goal line work that typically has really fell on either Josh Allen's shoulders or been like a combination where they had backs that weren't necessarily qualified to be goal line backs. Damian Harris has the size, he has the physicality, he has the mindset, and he has the smarts to really go in and dominate that particular backfield. All I can tell y'all is that it gets cold in Buffalo. And when it gets cold outside and you trying to win your fantasy championship, Damian Harris is who you want to be holding on your team. So make sure you grab him now while you can still snatch him up. I'm in a startup right now. I think I just got him in like round 14 or so. Still dramatically underrated as you're kind of looking at overall. I think James Cook is a thing, but I think the touchdowns they are going to go through Damian Harris. So give me all of Damian Harris. Back to you, Raz, man.
Listen, I completely concur with that, and that probably would have been my pick as well had you not picked it before me. All right, so I'm gonna go with my number one. That's gonna be Devin Singletary. All right, guys, listen. I know everybody's on that train for what's the guy out there? Sheila
Is that Damian Pierce?
Damian Pierce. Yeah. Listen, I love Damian Pierce with the Gators. You know what I'm saying? I thought he was great. Um, but in the NFL, I see limitations, and that's nothing against this man. I just see limitations, and I don't think that he's the pass catcher that they. I don't think he's a great pass catcher as either. So this is what I think about Singletary, and I think that's the reason that he's there. I think they are preparing a perfect scenario for a rookie quarterback to come in there and succeed. And I think that Singletary is basically gonna do everything that Pierce isn't that great at. So basically, creating separation, um, different formations, catching the ball out the backfield, saying being that change of pace guy. And this is where I'm talking about I'm falling in love. Listen, you have to roll with what's going on. So as the NFL offenses change, you can't sit here and say like, "Hey, we just need three down backs and bell cows." And you can want that all you want to. That's not happening anymore. So listen, if you're going late, you want to get that guy to catch his passes. So, and that's one thing that I like. So either Harris, and I said this in our other video, either Harris, who you know is going to get touchdowns, or somebody you know is going to catch passes. Not these in between guys that they're good at a lot, not great at anything. Singletary is great at catching passes and being a good change up, and he's very dependable because this guy on third downs can pick up a pass block. That's what he was. One of the things he was great at in Buffalo. That's why he was dependent on, and that's why he got so much run time out there. But they had to move on. They had James Cook, of course. So listen, give me Singletary. I think he's going to have a role, and you can get this guy extremely late because people aren't thinking about him like that. That's my number one. Back to you, brother.
So I do like the Devin Singletary pick. Think that's a great one. My next guy is none other than Mr. Elijah Mitchell. I just snatched him up in round 16 of a startup. And I'm sorry. I think everyone's forgotten um, just how good this guy was as a rookie. He literally did his thing. He suffered an injury last year. He runs physically. The 49ers actually love him. They're openly out that they do love him. They do want to actually use him in a committee approach with Christian McCaffrey. Now, here's the other thing. Christian McCaffrey gets hurt. He has a long history of actually getting hurt. So he is that perfect handcuff scenario. Think what you had with Kareem Hunt in the situation with Cleveland, where you already have a floor of actually being able to plug this guy in as an RB2 if you need to, because he's going to get some touches and he's going to run into some touchdowns. But if Christian McCaffrey goes down, well, now they already have a guy that's going to step into that lead back role. So in round 16, he is definitely a lottery ticket that I want to cash in on as much as possible. If I am a Christian McCaffrey owner, which I am, I love me some Christian McCaffrey. I try to make sure I compare him with Elijah Mitchell just to make sure I have what I need. But handcuffs are oftentimes the tickets to actually really be able to take your team to the next level or to be able to flip for future assets. Like that Christian McCaffrey owner, if it's playoff time and it's right before the playoffs, he goes down with the injury, then Elijah Mitchell can possibly net you another second round pick for the future. So to get him in round 16, round 15 of a startup is winning, winning, winning. Back to you, Razman.
All right. Once again, for some reason, I'll let you pick your guys first because I would have went Elijah here as well. But listen, one thing I want to add on that is I do believe that Elijah's good for 120, 140 points, even if Christian McCaffrey starts every game. I
Mhm.
think that Elijah's going to have a role. I think he's going to be an RB2, RB3 for you, a great spot filler, somebody that can get points, somebody you can depend on in that situation. Because you listen, as these leagues go on, and when you get late into that dynasty year or that fantasy year, listen, and you got to put somebody in that spot, and you like, hey, I need you to get points. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's 8, I believe that you can depend on Elijah to get you those 8 points. Because listen, we've all had those times where you need somebody to get some points because we play with pretty deep rosters because we like challenges, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe we just like to make ourselves suffer, whatever it is. But we play with pretty deep rosters. So listen, it gets tough. And listen, every point that you can get means a lot. So yeah, I do like that Elijah pick there. My next one's gonna be Foreman. Okay. The reason that I'm liking Foreman is because I do believe the Chicago's trying to do a whole lot out there
Mhm.
as far as helping their young quarterback along. I don't believe that him running the ball all the time is going to be a key to success. And I have not seen Khalil Herbert, which I know everybody's high on. I have not seen Khalil Herbert in a full time role. You know, pulling off a whole lot of being the one, the RB1. I haven't seen it, so I want to see it. I have seen Foreman though. I've seen Foreman in Tennessee, and I saw him be productive. I saw him be productive in Carolina out there, and then we're gonna see what he does in Chicago. One thing about Foreman is he was drafted by the Texans, and the Texans had, I think it was a second round pick. I'm not sure about that, but the Texans had a lot of high hopes for him, and they stuck with him for a good amount of time. The guy just could never stay healthy. His first very real healthy season was in Tennessee, productive. His next healthy seasons were in Carolina, productive. So we're going to see what he does in Chicago. I like what he's doing. I think that he is going to get you touchdowns for sure, short yardage back for sure. I love that. And you can get him very, very late, extremely late. I think I got him here in the 12th.
Mm-hmm.
So give me Foreman. Let's switch over to receivers now. Who's your first receiver?
Odell Beckham Jr. It's time, y'all. I need y'all to hear me on this. I know you've been out on OBJ, but here's the deal. The talent is real. Him actually signing and actually being able to collect 15 million guaranteed from the Baltimore Ravens. You see an IG post with him and Lamar Jackson. They already got the peace signs up. They're excited because they're about to go ahead and make a great connection. Greg Roman is gone from this offense. Give me Odell Beckham. The Ravens are a well-run, smart organization. If they're going to pay this guy $15 million for a year and guaranteed money, guess what? He's going to get the ball. I look for him to get 8 to 10 catches per game. And here's the thing with him. He comes out, he does his thing. As long as Odell stays healthy, he's going to literally be the best receiver they've had franchise-wise since they actually had Steve Smith over there. So give me Odell Beckham. I can see him going in rounds 10, round 11, round 12, and startups. Grab him. I mean, before the signing and everything, he was going round 14, round 15. Like nobody wanted anything to do with him, but you can't deny literally his talent. If he didn't get hurt in the Super Bowl, he was on his way to actually being the MVP of that game in that Cooper Cup. So just believe your eyes, believe the history. I know it's hard to get back on the train, but get on that train, grab him as a late round receiver, and watch him make some impact on your fantasy teams. OBJ to the moon.
Wow. Okay. Listen, I wish I could be on that train with you, brother. I will say that when OBJ's on the field, he is producing. The problem that I'm having with it is he not only did he tear his ACL again, or like it was on the opposite leg from the other ACL, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Not only did he tear that ACL, listen, it was a year later, and he still wasn't moving very well, and no one wanted to sign him. He was completely out of football last year, you guys, and that scares me. And then him going to Baltimore, it's not like Lamar is this extremely accurate, passer. So, that leads me to believe that
Mm-hmm.
I don't know here, guys. So as far as OBJ, the thing about OBJ is his talent level is extreme. If you ever doubted his talent level, just type in OBJ, like cornerbacks talking about OBJ, and just hear what his opposition had to say about him as far as his route running and as far as what he was bringing to the table. What they were talking about with OBJ was basically, bring your lunchbox. It's going to be a tough day. This is what the cornerbacks were saying about trying to cover OBJ. And then he was held back by a guy we talked about earlier, and Baker Mayfield, and he's gonna probably be held back by Lamar Jackson, especially if Lamar isn't completely sold into what Baltimore is doing. If they don't get him into that offense fast and get him on that learning curve. So I don't know about that one. I'm gonna give you my first receiver, and that's gonna be somebody that's I would say is in the mold of an OBJ, and that's Mr. Wandale Robinson. And listen, think about Wandale is his athletic profile is off the charts. And I know I talked about one guy's ACL, and now I'm bringing up Wandale and his injury
Uh-huh.
history. I get it, I get it. But listen, Wandale's a lot younger, so he might have a lot more tread on the tires. And listen, the way Wandale moves is almost inhuman. You know, the way he moves, his athleticism is crazy. And if you look at the times he was actually on the field, he was extremely productive, and in his rookie year. And if you think about the Giants and what they're trying to do, they are trying to put a lot of talent around their lackluster quarterback that they paid all this money to. And I believe that Wandale is going to be able to do some major things here. So Wandale is the guy that I'm looking at. He's a guy that I think that a lot of people are sleeping on because how that rookie year played out, and because of Daniel Jones, I think that that kind of just limited people's opinions. But I do believe with Dayball there and what they're trying to do out there. Listen, look out for Wandale. I think he's going to be a big riser this year, and I think you can get him extremely late. I love it. So, Mr. Shilor, what's your thoughts, brother?
I ain't gonna mess with you too much on Wandale. I think he definitely is a lottery ticket as we're going forward. But the thing about the Giants is all of their receivers are kind of lottery tickets, right? That's the thing that's very unique about them. We both like Hodgins. Now you got Wandale. They did sign a guy from the Colts and Paris Campbell, who definitely has elite ability. And I look for them to actually add an additional guy in the draft. So I'm curious to see how it works. Wandale, I was never really on him because he's a 5'8" receiver. That's always the big thing for me. When you are that small, it's hard for you to really make a name for yourself. Outside of, like, again, Steve Smith, there's really not a lot of 5'8", 5'9" receivers that really make a big impact. So curious to see. Definitely rooting for the young man. But here's the point. As a late round flyer, these are great guys to grab and potentially be lottery tickets for you. So you grab them, they're sitting on your bench. If they start hitting, you got a choice. You can either plug them into a lineup or you can ship them out and sell them to the Giants fan that's super excited about him catching a touchdown in week one. So it just depends on what your belief level is, but definitely think he's a great pick there for you there. Now, let me go ahead and go with my guy who I don't know why he is so underrated. I think he's going to end up surpassing Michael Pittman as the number one wide receiver in Indianapolis, and that is Mr. Alec Pierce. He has number one traits. He has home run speed. He is 6'3". He is baby Jordy Nelson. He did show signs already as a rookie. And for some reason, nobody's caught on to just how good this guy is yet. When they get a quarterback over there, it's going to be evident exactly what's going on. Michael Pittman is somebody who's a possession guy, but he is not somebody who can do it all. Alec Pierce has the size, has the speed, has the hands, has all of the elite traits that you're looking for. I think it's literally just a matter of time before he actually becomes the number one over there. I think you snatched him up from me in a draft here recently. Congratulations on that. I had him in my queue. He was next. I was hoping he would slide down, but it's all good. I'm not going to cry about that. But give me all the Alec Pierce. Get your hands on him, guys. If you can get them for cheap, if you can get them later on, if you can get them for a second round pick, grab you some Alec Pierce and enjoy the fruits of your labor in terms of actually being able to pick him up. Rasman?
You already know I love that pick. And listen, last year's draft was so crazy. Listen, you got to stop listening to people tell you that third rounders aren't worth anything. That Shilor thinks third rounders aren't worth anything. But you got to stop listening to people like Shilor to tell you third rounders aren't worth anything. And you got to stop listening to people tell you that drafts are bad and all this nonsense that they're telling you. Listen, in last year's draft, I got Wandale and Pierce in the third at the top of the third round. I had some early third rounders. I got both of those guys and in some of my leagues. Now you can say, well, they haven't been extremely productive, but Pierce actually did have some pretty productive games last year. And when Wandale was on the field, he was actually pretty productive. These are two really good prospects. You can call them that. and maybe they'll never get past the prospect level, but they're two really, really good prospects. I agree with Mr. Shilor, even in his depiction of Michael Pittman basically being the possession guy and Alec Pierce actually being a guy that probably is a little bit more talented. He's I would say his talents are more well-rounded than Pittman's is, but I think the Pittman is great at something, and right now Pierce is good at things, or kind of a little bit better than him at other things, but not great at any one thing. So we'll see if Pierce can develop that, and I'm very excited to see him with a competent quarterback. So hopefully Minshew gets over there, does some good things, but they lose a bunch of games and lose to the Titans, of course. All right. So I have a little issue here. When I was writing them down, I jotted them down pretty quickly, and I noticed that I actually have Hodges as my number two, and I don't think I can do that because I have Wandale as my number one. But I do think that Hodges is somebody you can get even later, and somebody has another little swing at it. But the person I'm going to go with, since I have two guys from the same team, I'm going to go with Mechie, John Mechie. John Mechie was a mid to early second round pick for a lot of us last year. He had the Hodgkin's lymphoma diagnoses, and a lot of us was like, oh man, just wasted a second round pick on this guy. Not going to get anything out of him. I know some people even dropped him because of that diagnosis. Like, oh, he's never going to play again. And I know that was a fear for some of us, but if you remember watching him in college, he wasn't the greatest talent profile that you ever seen. He was kind of like a watered down version of some of these great receivers coming out of Alabama. But listen, Mechie had talent, and I believe that him in Houston is probably going to be the one or the two receiver out there, and I think that it's almost like getting a second round pick rookie, a second round rookie pick, and being able to have this unseen talent and kind of seeing where that goes. If you just take it from his college profile, he should be productive. I don't think he's ever going to be a great receiver, but I do think he'll be a good receiver. And if you can get a good receiver that late and you get somebody productive that late, if you can get somebody that can give you like the numbers of a Alan Lazard, 800 yards, 5 touchdowns. If you can get that from somebody this late, man, listen, that's great. That's a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, and if you can get them, if you're getting them after the 12th round, man, listen, that's love. So that's my second guy there. What say you,
Look
brother?
at John Michie pick. I've been grabbing him. I think we've been competing to grab him.
We've been
I
competing.
think he is the perfect slot. He's a great slot receiver. He reminds me of Randall Cobb coming out. I think he has all the ability there. And now being in a situation now in Houston, I think he definitely has an opportunity to really go to a different level. I've been grabbing him wherever I can. I recently did a trade where I grabbed him along with what did I get, man? I traded Amon St. Brown. I got 111, 201, 202, 204, and John Mechie.
Jesus.
And when I tell you, John Mechie was like the cherry on top in making
Wow.
that thing work, it was amazing because I look at this guy as being somebody that I can plug into a flex spot. And now with those picks, I'm going to use that to go ahead on and grab my additional running backs.
I'm
And
sure it was
also,
amazing for you.
I mean, it was incredible. And I think this is the thing, right? When you're looking at we're looking at players, and I think this is big. We'll definitely touch base on strategy.
Right.
But whenever you can actually get value, get value, collect assets.
Absolutely.
Nobody should ever be unmovable, untouchable on your team. If you can get the right pieces in place, then it's cool. Because obviously, some people are going to value second round picks, but I value high second round picks in this draft. Give them to me,
Absolutely.
and we'll see what's going on. Because all I have to do is hit on one of those guys, and it's on. Well, if I hit on two, well, now it's crazy. Don't mess around and go 4 for 4, and then it's a whole nother level because now we have picked up 4 starters for one player. So definitely be mindful of what you
Absolutely.
can get in draft capital for players.
And speaking to strategy, Sheila, one thing I want to mention on that is I look at that, and a lot of people kind of see the picks or something like that, and they don't think about it in this terms. But I would look at that as 5 for 1.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're getting 4 picks in a player, to me that's 5 for 1. People see
Mm-hmm.
picks and they don't think about listen. There's going to be a player attached to that pick. So when I see that, so like, even if you get a player and then you give a player in 2 picks, that's 3 for 1 to me. So like, or you're doing this trade down in the startup, and you say like, all right, cool. Well, I'll come down, but you got to give me a pick this year, a late pick, and then a pick next year. So that's 3 for 1. So just understand you gave up 3 guys for one person, and that one person might be great, but in my head, that's how I think about it, and that
Mm-hmm.
keeps me from doing certain deals and keeps me from hurting myself. But when you don't think about it like that, you'll be like, oh yeah, man, have all these picks here. And I'm like, unless those picks are like the bottom of that draft, like the complete bottom, where you're basically just picking guys that probably just won't make your team at all, you know, those picks probably don't matter. But as far as like picks where people are actually picking players that's going to be starters on their team, and in these deep rosters that we have, listen, we're going in the 13th round, the 14th round, and there's going to be players that are probably going to there's still teams picking up starters. So when you have to think about it and really be mindful of the picks that you're giving up, because while you might be giving up a 10 and a 12, if you're in the second round, you're like, oh man, yeah, you can have that 10 and 12. But see, later on, that other guy is like, all right, cool, starter here, starter there. Either that or starter level backup here, starter level backup there. And then you're in 14, 15 trying to basically get those players back or fill those holes up of the gaps that you have. So that's something to think about there. All right, I'm gonna go into my tight ends. I'm gonna give both of them to you guys, and that's gonna be Mr. Trey McBride and Mr. Cade Otton. Listen, I am big on both these guys. McBride, because when McBride was in, he was very, very productive. He was basically the tight end one that everybody was trying to grab last year. And he was a borderline, in your rookie drafts, he was a borderline first round pick, an early second round pick. And the guy really lived up to the talent when he was on the field, which wasn't much at that first year. But listen, McBride is coming. McBride is productive. McBride can be uh, a baby. Everybody's baby Gronk. So let me say something. McBride can be like a George Kittle or somebody like that. So I'm loving McBride. And then as far as Otten goes, I think Otten showed a lot last year. I think that he's in a position. He does have great weapons around him, so they're going to eat up targets and stuff like that. But I think Otten is the long play. I mean, because honestly, how much longer is Evans going to be there, and how much longer is he going to play? And they're going to still, and I know that the offense is different, but they're still, well, the coordinator is different, but they're still going to run that Bruce Arians thing. They're still gonna throw that ball. They still want to be highly productive there. And if you just think about if you combine what Otten did or put out, and you combine what the guy that was ahead of him put out, that guy is gone. What was his Brate? Cameron
Yeah,
Brate.
Cameron Brate. Yeah.
So if you kind of take their production and say, hey, well, Iden's just the number one guy now, so he should get all those targets. I just think you're looking at a tight end with great upside for the future. So this is a pick that's going to be getting better in time, especially when Evans leaves and they're looking for their new red zone target. This is where Iden is gonna really shine in that offense. So those are my 2 tight ends. How about you, brother?
Love those two. For me, give me Isaiah Likely with the Ravens, and give me Irv Smith, who literally just signed with the Bengals. So Isaiah Likely, I believe with Baltimore, I think they found something with 2 tight end systems. What's cool about Isaiah Likely is he can even be to play in the slot. So having him out there with the Mark Andrews, I think makes a huge difference. He's very shifty. He gets open. Lamar was very comfortable with him. And if Mark Andrews gets nicked up, he definitely continues to actually be a part of what they're working with there. So I love me some Isaiah Likely. You can see he has real star potential. A lot of times it takes year 3 for tight ends to really break out. For him to actually show signs as a rookie, it lets you know that there's real talent there and definitely someone that you can add. The other guy, Irv Smith, has actually struggled with injuries, but was a top prospect out of Alabama. And now you're seeing him slide into a situation in Cincinnati where Hayden Hurst is now gone. You have the receivers that are going to grab that additional attention. What's great about Irv Smith is he has a tremendous athletic profile. He's only 6'2", but he gets open. He's shifty in the open field. He has good hands. It's all about being able to stay on the field. If he can stay on the field, especially with Joe Burrow pulling the trigger, he can actually be a guy that has tremendous upside and can really cash in, especially late round. This is somebody in that 14, 15 round that you can grab and really make an impact. So those are my 2 tight ends.
Listen, I love those guys. I think you really hit it out the park with Likely. I would say with Irv Smith, now this is somebody you're getting pretty late, so so the risk is minimal, but his talent is out of this world. Problem is he hasn't been able to stay healthy and stay on the field. The other thing that I think about when it comes to Cincinnati is the fact that they're trying to get a better offensive line right now, but I know they're gonna want their tight ends to block. And they're gonna need them to be dependable too. So I wonder how often he's actually gonna be on the field. The thing is, when he's on the field, he's probably gonna be making plays. And when he's on the field, he's gonna be making plays. But I just do wonder, like, if his blocking is not up to snuff, um, are they really gonna continue to put Burrow in harm's way? And if that's the case, will they kind of limit his playing time? I'm just wondering about that. That's all I got right there.
Okay, good stuff, man.
All right. All right, guys. Listen, that's been another episode of the Dynasty Overload podcast. Hope we gave you some guys to consider late in these startup drafts, and even some of these guys that might be on your waiver wire right now. So these are some guys you should be looking at and some things that you should be thinking about as you progress in your dynasty leagues. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Shelaw. Rocking with Raz, man, again.
Let's go.
Yes, sir. You guys have a great night. We'll see you. We out.
Peace.